Sooner Nation, welcome to the Sooner Surge. Tonight, we're going to be covering all things Oklahoma Sooner baseball on this fabulous Friday where they have gained many good signs heading into next year, and Skip Johnson looks to be ready to make a deep run next year. But before we get started on that, please subscribe to our YouTube channel here as we are covering all things OU sports. And as they happen and we get that information, we are providing content for you guys, our viewers. Also tonight, we have Hunter on here, our recruiting analyst, and also the one who covers baseball primarily for Sooner Surge, writes many articles, really covers the team well. You see his Twitter handle at the bottom. Make sure you go follow him as he is with the ins and outs of the Sooner baseball program. And tonight, Hunter, let's start. We've seen a lot of things that have happened for OU in the last few days. Specifically today, Skip Johnson really dominating, attacking the portal. Hunter, so why don't you break down these commits that they've most recently gotten?
Yeah, so starting off, Skip Johnson's Lookie Here thing. Right now we have, I think, about 5, if I counted right, that have been answered. And there's more than you can count on that. I don't remember the number. There's a lot more coming. Last year was not ideal. Still a great season to make it back to the tournament, losing 11 guys to the draft, also losing Brett Squire, so that's 12 there, losing your entire pitching staff, pitching rotation for the weekend, your closer. And so this year, looking at the portal, Skip is going right at it. Pitching is the thing that needed to be fixed with this team. That was the biggest issue all year long. It was just inconsistent throughout the entire season. The only starter you have returning now is James Hitt for your weekend rotation. So starting this Wichita State, and hopefully this continues, this trend of Wichita State guys, you got Jace Minor. OU fans should be pretty familiar with him as he pitched against OU and 3.1 scoreless innings, 5 strikeouts. He really just closed the door on us. Any sort of hope we had of kind of getting back into that game the first time around, I believe, against Wichita State, Minor closed the door. Now he's on our side. So you always love that. Obviously, Skip and staff saw that with him playing Wichita State. We've played them time and time again. So when Wichita State has this exodus, they have the staff's done really well of getting those Wichita State guys in.
Hey, yeah, is he lefty, righty, and then what about his velocity?
Jace Minor?
Yeah.
Jace Minor's a lefty.
Yeah, but I mean, what about his velocity? How about how fast does he throw? You think like mid?
Every guy, what I was noticing, Hunter, is every one of these pitchers they got are mid-90s, low to mid-90s.
Yeah, low to mid-90s, 6'1" frame, so he's not the biggest guy, but he's still solid size for a pitcher. And it's just with his ERA, I think last year was a really good year overall.
And he's got experience.
Which is a 2.05 ERA. If OU had that last year, that would have been a big difference in the outcome of a lot of games because they just didn't have that guy besides Braden Carmichael, and the James Hitt was good for majority of the season. Everything else was just inconsistent. And then this week, another commit they got from Wichita State, Austin Henry, did not play last year. He had Tommy John, but this kid was a perfect 10 on perfect game, throwing 92. And that's the last time I've seen his velocity. And for context on that, that was when he was, I think, a junior in high school.
Is he the 6'4"? Is he the 6'4" or 6'6" kid?
I think he's 6'5". Right-handed pitcher from South Dakota. Really good fastball. Curveball has like 3,200 RPMs on it. Filthy stuff. And that's a guy that they can either bring him up as a starter, they can get him out of the pen. And that's what I'm really liking right now of what they're doing with this transfer class is you got Minor. He's probably going to be a starter or he can be the bullpen guy. He's been great out of the pen for Wichita State at times. And then they're just getting so much depth and getting this Wichita State connection, which matters because there's another guy, a two-way guy, and Peyton Tolley in the transfer portal who struck out 97 last year while hitting 311 with 13 bombs and 50 RBIs. He's in the portal, from what I've heard. The staff really likes their chances there on that one. They like how it's going right now. Obviously, he's not committed just yet, but they really like where they are, and that Wichita State connection they're building is really going to help there.
Hey, Hunter.
Yeah.
I've talked to you a little bit this week, and you've been giving me you call it the perfect game and their stats and stuff. Just kind of the listeners here, explain what perfect game is for baseball, kind of, so they know.
Yeah, perfect game is one of the, like, I would consider it one of the top, if not the like priority recruiting site for baseball, MLB Draft especially. They have this grade system. Really, if you're like an 8, you're expected to be drafted somewhere in the 20 rounds. So towards the end of the draft, most likely. A 9, you're expected in the first 10 rounds. A 10, you're expected to be a high pick or a really highly sought college prospect. So that's kind of where they get these numbers in on that. With Austin Henry, that 10 rating, Wichita State's been known for a long time as a great baseball program. As of late, that hasn't been the case. So you can kind of see why he committed there out of high school, out of South Dakota. It's just, it's great to see Skip finally getting these guys with the really high perfect game rating, because they're in these showcases, their velo there, the scouts there are really liking their movement, especially on pitchers there. So it's just nice to see finally.
Hey, what about moving on? What about
There.
What, Jeremy?
Oh, I was going to say, you mentioned Hit. He's from Texas Tech, but Skip went and got another guy from Texas Tech, right?
Yeah, Brendan
Gurton is also from Texas Tech. Yeah, so there's that connection too. He's going inside the conference and getting people too. So
yeah,
he knows what he's getting in these guys.
Yeah, Gurton on the year was 2-2. Really shut out the Sooners for the most part. I think he allowed 1 hit, 5 strikeouts in 4 innings. That was a tough loss, I believe, in that game. I think we lost that one. It might have been one of the ones we squeaked out there. But overall in the year, he had 51 innings, 33 runs on 52 hits, 31 walks, 36 strikeouts, 5.82 ERA. So the ERA is up there a bit, but it's a Big 12. If you guys are familiar with Skip, he always says if a pitcher in the Big 12 can have a sub-6 ERA, it's a good thing. So with explosive offenses in the Big 12, it's kind of the norm there. But he's from Gage, Oklahoma, so that one's not too big of a shocker for him to come back to kind of a more local program compared to Texas Tech.
Hey, what about the guys today, the bros, the Witherspoon brothers?
Yes, and the Witherspoon brothers are JUCO in Florida, Northwest Florida State. Malachi, I'll start with him. He was the first one to announce. Bullpen guy last year as a freshman, 17.1 innings, 23 hits, 19 earned runs, 24 strikeouts, 9.87 ERA. That's a little high, but it's a bullpen guy, freshman year. Certainly something that Skip can get under control there. And then his brother, Kyson, is a starter, 6-2 on the year, 3.10 ERA, and 69 and 2/3 innings, 55 hits, 24 earned runs, 72 strikeouts, only allowed 7 bombs all year long. Those ones are not a shock at all. I think that was the Lookie Here ×2 if you had to kind of pin it, because they're twin brothers, both 6'2". So getting more pitching there, that's what they need. There's very little offensive stuff that they necessarily have to get in the portal, because depending on the draft again, that's where that's kind of going to change some things. It's kind of hard right now. It's kind of the big part of the transfer portal. The most guys are entering, and there's uncertainty everywhere because you have guys that could get drafted or are going to get drafted, but you don't know where they're going to get drafted at, to where what is their bottom dollar on their contract. If they're getting a big signing bonus, they're going to go. I mean, last year there was a guy, Brett Squires for OU was one that was undrafted and ended up getting a $75,000 signing bonus to the Kansas City Royals. And he took it. Now he's killing it in the minor leagues. So good for him. But that's the uncertainty with OU, because you have a few guys in the lineup that are going to get drafted most likely. Dakota Harris is pretty much a lock. I don't know what his number is, but if you kind of got to make an assumption on that, he's married. So pretty much you're going to get drafted. You're probably going to go. Bryce Madron, certainly one that will get drafted. Again, what's his number? Not sure on that. Anthony McKenzie, another one, same situation. Kendall Pettis. Yeah, really good junior season. Still has one more year, if not two, from a COVID year. Not sure on the eligibility part of that. Will probably get drafted. Not sure what his bottom dollar is. With the outfield, Pettis and Madron, you would kind of think they're the more likely ones to return, as another season batting 300 or higher. You're going to get drafted either at the same spot or even higher next year. So that's something to look towards as the MLB draft approaches.
Yeah. Hey, we've seen OU before with multi-sport athletes, right? You had Brandon Jones, you had Cody Thomas, you've had Kyler Murray. We know Nesta has committed, right? Dual sport athlete. Skip Johnson seems to be a dual sport coach now.
Dual sport recruiter.
He's a huge recruiter for football.
Yeah.
He's out recruiting Lincoln Riley, maybe.
As of right now, that's the case there. If you saw on Twitter today, I put out like best recruiter in the country with that Skip Johnson meme. Is one of the many I put out today on that. James Nesta, guy, 6'4", 6'5", throwing 92. Last time his perfect game profile was updated with a mid-70s breaking ball, 9.5 on perfect game. He's one that some were worried that he might go to the draft next summer, 2024 MLB draft. But now with him wanting to be the two-sport athlete, committed to OU now, you would think for sure he's going to be a Sooner. He's going to wait the 3 years and see if there's an NFL future there. And if not, the MLB future is certainly going to be there. Really good breaking ball from what I've heard on him. And throwing 92 as a junior in high school, that's impressive. There's another one there in Taylor Tatum. That's turned into an OU USC battle. And
because USC's baseball team's so good.
Yeah. Maybe 40 years ago, when you guys were growing up, they were really good back then. They've won more national championships than I think anybody, but the last one came in like the late 90s. So, and they haven't made the tournament in I think like 7 years, something like that. But that's appeasing. I don't know. And going to the Big Ten certainly does not help there. That's a very, very, very weak baseball conference. They're pretty much they might get a couple in, but that's about it. They're not going to the World Series pretty much ever. The last one I think was Michigan in 2019. So that's quite a bit of a drought. You look at the SEC, past 3 years, if you want to count OU and Texas as SEC members, which they are as of July 1st, 2024. College World Series finals, all SEC the past 3 years. So with Tatum, that's certainly how OU started to build ground. That and the just fantastic recruiting ability of Skip Johnson. You're going to the SEC. SEC is hands down the best baseball conference. I'd probably say they're a better baseball conference than they are a football conference, because them
Top to bottom.
yeah, like last year, Ole Miss won the national championship. This year, I think they finished last place in the conference, which they had a lot of guys leave, graduate, all that. But still, they're a national championship winning team. Great fan base. Still have 17,000 fans at pretty much every game. But that's what happens in the SEC. I think they won 3 games in conference play. It's just a tough conference. And that's certainly, with Taylor Tatum, everything we've heard is baseball, baseball, baseball. He loves baseball almost more than he loves football. But obviously, he's the number 1 running back in the
Which
country.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Two-sport athlete, and he's
Two-sport
number 1
athlete.
running back.
Yeah. He's probably going to be hearing his name next summer. Don't think he would take it. I think he's going to see what football can do for him.
Yeah.
Kind of have to when you're the number 1 running back in the country. That would be pretty wild for probably at that point a 5-star running back to not even play in college.
Yeah.
So Skip Johnson made the two-sport athletes work at OU. Now in a very good spot for the football department with Taylor Tatum going up against USC on that. Back to recruits. Another 24 guy and Berkeley Roddy today, 2024 pitcher out of Fort Worth, throwing mid-90s on the fastball, a low 80s on the slider. It's just very hard for hitters to hit. Seeing his stuff on PBR, perfect game, all that in kind of the playoffs in Texas. Another pitcher there that is great to see for Skip, one of the best pitching coaches in the country. And then kind of transitioning to who might be next from the Lookie Here side of things. You would have to think James Bowman is one of them. Shown a lot of interest in OU between Twitter, retweets, likes, follows from the coaching staff, and then the Lookie Here likes, I think, are there as well. 6'2", redshirt junior from LSU. The health is a question mark there on if he's, but you would have to kind of think that by next year he'll be able to be back. And last season he played in 2021, 5-2 on the year, 2 complete games, 2 saves, 3.97 ERA, 73 strikeouts. That's another pitcher that will do. Seeing last year's pitching staff and the struggles they had there, you'll certainly take that any day of the week.
Yeah, and I think that to me, as a, I don't obviously follow as closely as you do, but to me that's the area obviously they needed the most help in, and so that's what's exciting about these recruits. And also, if you watch the College World Series, you got to have a dominant pitcher and pitching staff to make it to the championship, just like OU did last year with the guys in the rotation. And so to me, that's so exciting with that. You also have the renovations with OU and the facilities upgrading. You have this, him being really hot right now in recruiting. I think the baseball program right now moving to the SEC, that's got to help recruiting big time, I think, in baseball, just because it's such a better conference than the Big 12 in baseball. So all that is just positive for OU recruiting. Any other guys? Is that it, Hunter?
I still got one more on the Lookie Here side. CJ Hood, 6'4", right-handed pitcher from Nebraska, 18 appearances his freshman season, 2.0, 4.26 ERA. That's one that could certainly pop at any time. And then kind of just one last MLB draft update. OU has 3 guys in this 2023 class. I think they went by the Jordan year for 23. They're all signed, but there's 3 guys that you need to watch next month in the MLB draft. Starting off with Jacob Golston, Dallas Morning News player.
That's who I was going to bring up. Yeah.
From what I've heard, staff is confident. He's going to be on campus, but I think it was today it got put out by PBR, Prep Baseball Report. Their big board, they have him at 56 on their top 150 for the 6'6" pitcher. low to mid 90s on the fastball. That's certainly something to watch, because if he's as high as PBR saying he is, that would be really hard for OU to get him on campus. If at that point you're saying a top 3 round pick, you would have to think he would take the MLB money there. Another one, Cannon Kemp, another 6'6" pitcher. He's touching 95 on his fastball in high school. A big kid, 2,800 RPMs on his slider. I think he was at 96 on that list, so still in the top 100 out of, I think, was a 150 list. That's one to watch. And then another one, Jackson Willits. With him, it's just a tough situation. His dad's associate head coach, runs the offense. Reggie Willits, former big leaguer. That's an interesting thing on how are they, because you would think a kid would love to play for his dad
Exactly.
for 3 years in college, but again, his dad's a former big leaguer. He knows the draft process. He knows what that number will be on signing bonuses compared to what it could be in 3 years, on if it's worth the risk of you maybe regressing. But highly scouted middle infielder, won 3 state championships this past year for Fort Cobb-Broxton, 2 in baseball, 1 in basketball, fall baseball there, Class B. I think they didn't have that many graduate. I think it was like less than 20. Very small school there, but he's just unreal. 6'1", 185, switch hitter, just a pure hitter. Probably the best player in the state, if you had to ask me. State of Oklahoma last year in high school baseball. With him, it's hard to see because you're not seeing him against those highly watched matchups against like a 6A school. But he definitely could have went into a lot of 6A schools, Fort Cobb-Broxton as a team, and turned a lot of heads. Teams that went deep into the playoffs, I don't think they would have been able to beat them this past year.
Yeah, sounds like, so there's a lot of unknowns as we get to the MLB draft, but it's clear one known that we can take to the bank is Skip Johnson. The Sooners are in great hands with Skip Johnson. For people to be critical of him, for them to make the tournament this year with all that they lost was a heck of a year, and he's proving right now that this dude's up for the job, and he's ready to get them back next year to the College World Series Finals.
Yeah, and hottest recruiter there is right now. So, and right there, guys, that's 22 minutes of in-depth baseball coverage right there for you Sooner fans. And if you're subscribed, thank you. If you're not, what are you waiting on? Hit the subscribe button. Like we said, we're going to cover all things OU. We've covered softball pretty in-depth. We cover baseball, whatever it is. If it's Sooner sports, we're going to be covering it. So please subscribe. Hunter, thanks for all the information tonight. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all next time. Boomer.